Right? And I'm not playing no games. Yeah.
I am Pops, and this is the X-Men animated series portion of Saturday morning cartoons with this guy, Little Pop Perspective. That's right, Pop Perspective about the X-Men animated series. This is a standalone episode, so it's just going to be the one episode, Unstoppable Juggernaut. That's right. So we've had some different story arcs and things like that sort of interwoven into the show. This is episode 8 of that first season. We've wrapped up the Genosha storyline. At the end of the last episode, they're flying back, and the X-Men see that the Xavier Institute, the mansion, has basically been reduced to rubble, right? And there's a quick scene here where you have them all coming together. Logan is sniffing out the attacker and basically just ups and leaves. Like, this is what Wolverine does keep doing. And then they basically kind of dispatch the team, basically. And we're going to send Rogue, Storm, and Jubilee into town and kind of sort out if they can figure out some clues. And basically, Jubilee sees a mutant. He is covered in metal. There's been an attack on a bank, and somehow Jubilee thinks it's this guy. And of course, it's Colossus, right? Well, this is the scene where Colossus, it begins with him working among human colleagues. Of course, he's amazing compared to them because he's a mutant. He's super strong. His Russian is played up as like a big barrier with these people. They hate on him. And he's like, I don't understand what I do wrong. You tell me what I do wrong. Anyway, so they end up at the bank. And Wolverine's starting to piece things together and realizes it's not the right guy. What's interesting is like the conflict early on, but here the police just take Colossus away like it's no big deal. And then they don't show him transforming back to his human form. But yeah, in this Colossus version, he can transform back and forth from his normal metal form to his human form. And then, of course, you have the bank, and then, of course, another bank is being robbed, and that's where Juggernaut is revealed. And Juggernaut, of course, is basically like unstoppable at this point. It was a little awkward that the way the dialogue and all of this is handled. This is probably of the 8 episodes so far, the worst episode so far. Very clunky, the dialogue. Juggernaut is like, they try for wit and funny, doesn't really work. I mean, I know I got that it's for kids. Please don't blow up the chat or the comments like that. But the stuff that has happened previously, even though there was a lot of like weak dialogue at times and things that don't really work, and this is really played up for very, very young kids. This one really doesn't miss. There's actually like a couple of animation issues as well. There's one shot with Jean and her eyes just get all helter-skelter. Ew. So that kind of happens. But at the end of the day, we get a pretty good introduction of Juggernaut and Colossus. Colossus, of course, no matter how misunderstood he is, you get how genuine of an honest guy he is trying to find his path. He's looking for his sister. And with Juggernaut, you understand how incredibly difficult it will be to take this guy down, especially by yourself. Like, it's not going to be an easy thing. And they have to devise a plan to figure out how to get his helmet off. But you get everything. You get a little name drop, right? So you find out Juggernaut is actually Xavier's brother, Kane, right? You get Rogue tries to absorb his powers, right? And he kind of like says, well, you want some of my powers? And he talks about his magic, and he just kind of pushes the energy, and she just can't even handle it. She is reliving his traumatic childhood of, oh, the family likes Charles and they hate me. What she kind of things like that. She just keeps saying, and Storm is trying to help her and those kinds of things. All of this is where the strength of the show lies and what they do get right. So even in their weakest moments, like I said, this is the weakest of the show at this point. It is still vastly superior to most shows, like incredibly good compared to most of the modern stuff that we've been experiencing. And then ultimately they figure out a way. Wolverine's like attacking the helmet, and they're doing different things. And then you get Jean, who basically uses her cerebro, her powers, to wipe his mind, give him like a temporary amnesia, and he just sort of kind of like wanders off. But there are like little moments that don't quite play well, right? And it's just a more clunky episode compared to some of the rest, but you get a great introduction. You also continue to see different powers in action. You get to see those kinds of Colossus is at the end. He's helping rebuild the mansion. So you just like this guy, right? I will say too, when you see the movie that comes along a couple years after the show has ended, and you find there's these different contriving ways the movies try to figure out how to get Professor X and Xavier sort of like out of the mix, because he's so powerful, he's so strong. None of that has really been showcased in these early episodes. He had, like, of course, his one confrontation with Magneto, but it lasted just a few minutes at best. This is pretty consistent. This happens a lot. Like, Xavier stays home and sends them off to go and do the battle. He's at home, right? So that's one thing I think that people have kind of misunderstood about the series, is that the X-Men have a very fluid dynamic of, Gambit pretty much is just not even in this episode. He was showcased for 2 episodes. Oh, by the way, I hated the scene where they the girls go to bust Colossus out of jail and Beast is there waiting for his day in court. Just like, oh, by the way, Beast is still out there. Beast is in court. He refuses to leave the jail because he thinks he's going to get a fair trial. And then when the story just kind of like whoop, goes on without him, and you're like, okay, like I said, this is a clunky one. I had to look it up just to make sure I didn't have anything that I mistake about it all or whatever. So, but no, it was, like I said, I'm still enjoying it. I'm having a good time. Hopefully you're having a fun time at revisiting some cartoons on your Saturday morning or whenever you watch this video. I love your comments and thoughts, which episodes you love, which characters you like. Did you think they did it justice? Am I overreacting or being a little too, I am relative to new stuff. Let's face it, a lot of stuff just stinks, but I got to be honest, the first few episodes of this season series is really, really good. So this episode is kind of a little bit of bump in the road, but we'll see next week. Check back. We're doing it again right here with this guy. So hopefully you enjoy.
All I do is chill.